Brick Sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and today we have another exciting episode of Help Me Brick Sculpt, where we had a viewer ask a question, and I want to see if I can help. Here we go. This email came from Rick, and Rick says, "Hello, Chris. I hope you can look at this image, and the answer to my dilemma is instantly obvious to you." Well, let's hope so, but that's usually not the case. If not, please don't spend a lot of time pondering. Now, Rick, you shouldn't have said that. The problem is when I get a Lego problem, I lose sleep over it. I like to figure things out. Even if I don't do it in conventional ways, I'm not going to rest until I find a solution. So luckily this one wasn't horribly hard, but it's not the simplest thing either. I'm trying to build the brickstone walls in the image below. I have reverse engineered the mock, except for the area in the red circle. I cannot figure out what the part or parts are being used there. The rest of the wall I've done, and that part has me stumped. Thanks for any insight you can offer. All the best, Rick, WW Brick Lab. And here is the picture he gave me. We got this awesome looking fountain here, and this is the piece in question. Now I'm going to try to rebuild this whole thing here. I did email Rick back, and I asked him a few questions. The first one being, do you have more photos? Because I wanted to see what was going on up here to try to get this right and see how much room I had to work with behind this wall. So Rick had sent me a few things. First, he told me he's only going to be putting plants in it, so he didn't have to worry about the water portion. And he sent me what he had already built here. And obviously you can see he's having trouble with that piece that was circled in red. He then sent me to the Lego Ideas page where he got this from. And this build came from a builder called Tobnak. I think I'm saying that right. And it's called Moonbrick Cemetery. And what an awesome build. Now, I don't want to spoil this person's build and show you all their secrets, but I think there's a lot of relative information here. And I think this is a great little technique to show. So I really want to show it off. So in return, let's all go check out Tobnak at Lego Ideas. He's got a dozen or more really good projects on there, and this being one of them. As you can see here, he's got about 2,500 supporters on this particular project. Let's help get him to that 10,000, guys. Get on there and give him a support, because this is going to make for a great video, and what a cool build. Anyway, so I did find a picture a little bit more complete of that fountain, and I started to work. So this is the piece. This is actually the same picture. I just got to see the whole thing here, but this is the piece in question. Let's go ahead and start building this fountain, and then we can find out what that is. Now, my first attempt at this, I think went pretty good. In some aspects, I actually like better than what he did here. In some aspects, I like his better. Let me show you. So I started by thinking below the grade of the fountain. So here I have a base plate I made up. This is a base plate. I added a layer of plate on here and this pattern of tiles in the middle. This is very specific for what I want to build on here, because sometimes you have to work below the grade. A great reason to use Mills plates as well. And if you look in his build, he obviously has 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. So he's got plenty of room underneath. So going down one is not going to be a big problem. But this was my first solution, and I thought I had it, but then I didn't. Let me show you what I did. So first we're going to plug some studs in here. These are just 1x1 plates. I'm going to put these in these 8 locations here and start this little pattern. You'll see what this is all for in just a little bit here. Then we're going to build this surround. Now on this surround, these are different parts, I think just for decorative sake, because he's got this kind of pattern going on, but these are just plates. That part's tile, but underneath this is going to be plate. And these look to be these here, these corner 45s. So let's go ahead and build the base around this. And here I've got some gray plate, 2x2s, just because I'm short on 2x4s. Those are going to go 2 on each side in the middle. You have 8x8 is the center of this. There we go. And then we can plug these tiles in like that. And now you can see I have one layer down recessed, so I can build with that below the grade of this fountain. All right, so there we go. The next thing I want to plug in is just some 1x1 tiles. And I'm just going to put these in the corners here because in this you can see that he does have a little bit of that tile exposed there. I'm assuming he, I don't know, it may be a she, they have a little bit of that tile exposed there. And there is the start. Now let's work on the walls here. The first wall is quite obvious because it's in grid. And it might be a little hard to see on camera there, but you have one piece in the middle, pieces on the outside, a masonry, a tile, and then tiles on the edge. These angled pieces are actually on the slanted wall, not on the straight in-grid walls. So the way we're going to build this wall, 2 brackets facing upward, 1x1, 2 tall, masonry brick. I'm going to put that right in the middle. There we go. A tile on top, a tile on one side, and a tile on the other. That's our basic wall. We'll get to the bottom in just a minute, and we have to make 4 of those. So there's 4 of them. Now let's look at this angled wall, the wall in question. So this one's built pretty similar, except it has these angles on the outside, and it's at an angle. I'm going to build it like this. Again, 2 brackets, masonry brick in the middle, tile on top, and on the outsides, we're going to use 2x2 plates. Now, when I went to start this project, I looked for these angled pieces, which I knew I didn't have a lot of, and I found one in the wrong color. Shoot. So I was going to try to rush this video forward, and I figured I could use a substitute part, the pyramid piece. And the reason I thought that was, well, it has the exact same slopes, and it would have worked. But luckily, I have a lot of Lego stores I like to purchase from. And so I got on Samuel's Bricks, and it's new Lego day. That's right. And I know these are in here because I opened it. There we go. That's the piece we need. We're going to get to the rest of this probably when I do my sort and chat. So stay tuned for a new Lego day there. But we need this piece. All right. So these are the pieces we're going to use, not the pyramids. And we can just put these on the outsides of both sides. There we go. And I'll snap my fingers, and they're done. I now have 4 of these walls with the angles on them. So these are going to sit in grid, and these are going to go in between. Now we still haven't answered the question, how are these attached? Well, let's start with these angled walls, because those are the troubled ones. Now, if we look at this base, let's make some observations. So we need a piece that can attach 2 studs in the middle, nothing on the outside. And it's one solid piece. My initial thought would have been actually what Rick did, which he used 2, it's kind of hard to see here, but he used 2 of the half plate, half tile ones where it has 2 studs on top. But it is obviously one piece here. I can only think of one piece that has 2 studs in the middle, none on the outside, and would fit in that space. And that just so happens to be this one, this double angled wedge plate. And it fits very nicely right there. And it looks just like the picture. So that's a good start. Now, unfortunately, I only have one of these in medium stone gray. So we're going to mix the color up a little bit here, and I've got dark gray ones. But they'll look good either way. So that, to me, looks like the correct piece. I can't imagine anything else that would fit there. And we're going to put one of those on the bottom of each of these walls. Now, you're probably still wondering why I recessed this down, and let me show you. My idea was to find a spot on this grid where I can attach a plate underneath to attach a wall to. I tried this spot here, and it didn't line up. It hit the outside walls. So I moved it back one, and I used a 2x3 instead, and it fits pretty dang perfect. There's a slight chance it's illegal, but it's very hard to tell and very minimal, so I want your guys' opinion on this one. But that is the method I tried first, and let me show you how that came out. So the next thing was I had to figure out, if I put 2 of these here, what do I mount this with? And just like our picture shows, we actually have 3 different pieces beneath the straight sides. The middle one is going to be pretty obvious. It's a 1x2 plate. But we need to fill in on the outsides. Now, because of these being angled, I can't just put 1x1 tiles in there. They will touch just barely. There's 2 different pieces. I'm going to actually take this portion off so you can see what we're working with here. And I'll take this off and leave the plate there. So that's what we need to fill in. And there's 2 pieces that'll work there. You could use either these 1x1s with 1 rounded side or the quarter rounded ones. I actually like this better because it makes for a little bit tighter fit, because you can see it runs right on that wall there. These are probably moved over a bit. They probably go more like that. So that's what I'm going to use, but these will work as well for this method. So if we fill in the rest of these just the same, and we can put these in, and this should allow us to put our walls in. Put our angled ones on first, and then we'll put our straight ones in between. And this is where I say this might be just barely illegal, because it does look like the bottoms touch a little before the top, but it is also on a base plate, so it might just be flex in this. If it is illegal, it's just barely illegal, and it looks nice and tight. I mean, all the way around. So that was what I initially went with. It was a good start, and I could have just stopped here. This is where Rick said he was going to put plants in there. That would work just fine, but I wanted to make sure that this was the correct build. So what I did next, I tried to put the water in. And so I basically followed the pattern of the water here, and this is what I made. Now, I don't have these pieces in trans dark blue. I don't think anyone has these pieces in trans dark blue. They might be out there, I don't know, but they're probably super rare if they are. This is dark gray, and I even had to use some black ones because I own like almost none of these. But those are basically the sides I copied from his picture here. And I put those in, and I realized, okay, we're going to be about 2 bricks apart in the middle. So I had to make a core to hold these. And the core I came up with, I used a round 2x2 in the middle so that those plates didn't interfere. Like that. 2x2 plate on top. And then just 2 of these snot pieces. Now the snot pieces I was going to attach on these halves, and that would make them meet up in the middle. Then I had to fill this gap. Well, this gap is obviously 2 bricks wide, which is 5 plates. So I grabbed 1x3 brick for one side, 2 1x3 plates for the other. And then these would just come together in the middle like that, and I plugged them in. And I thought I had it figured out. And then, of course, if you look at their build, they use a 3x3 plate on top, 3x3 plate on top. There we go. I'm done, right? Well, after I did this, I felt quite accomplished, but I looked at it. My gaps were not the same as these ones. You can see very clearly right here that this goes all the way to the edge. And mine has this weird, looked like half a plate or 4 LDU difference, and I just could not figure it out. So one thing I like to do is when I'm confronted with a problem, I like to just dive in, and I am very bad at doing my research first. It's one of my faults. But I decided to go back and look at more pictures of this in the LEGO Ideas listing, and I found this picture. And I realized, number one, just how many layers of water bricks there are, and I'm off by 1 plate in the middle here, so I knew this was wrong. Now this is too tight on the edges, so I couldn't move it out 1 more plate, but then I noticed their walls have bigger gaps, and these wedge pieces are actually out past the flush side. So My build here, I think the walls look a lot more seamless, but it is not the correct solution, and I way overcomplicated it by building below the surface there. So I started over, just on flat plate. This is not built up at all. Same thing you see here, but we're just going to build it right on flat plate, and I'm going to show you, after viewing this, how I'm pretty positive. I'm about 98% sure I got this one right. How I think this was done. The secret is this one here. 2x2 jumper in the corners. And I had tried this actually before, but I didn't think the walls lined up the way I wanted them to, or that they were supposed to. But I think this is how it was done. So now I can transfer everything over. Let's put our straight walls in first. And then our angled walls are just going to sit right on the middle of that jumper. And we're just going to balance those gaps on either side. And that looks pretty much exactly like the picture. I'm really glad I decided to put the water in, or I definitely would not have caught that, because I was just racking my brain on why my water didn't fit as nice as I thought it should. And so there seems to be the design used in the actual mock. Now I added a few other things, so I wanted to build this up a little bit. So I put some of these 1x2 plates with open studs, and it's important you use open studs for this because I'm going to be laying these snot pieces or snotted pieces on top. And if I use standard plate, they have Lego logos, which throws the LDU off. One of the curses of the Lego logo on those. But these don't have that because they're open studs, so you can float it perfectly on there. The top of those studs stick up for LDU or half a plate higher than the plate is. And that's just going to give some extra support to the water layer. I'm also going to add these in, which are just going to give even more support. I'm just going to put them here on the straight walls so that that water section doesn't fall in or get weak all the way around like that. Now, I had to change this because now they fit a lot better and they go all the way to the edge. So I had to add one layer in here, which meant I had to use a different core. Basically, I had to split one plate between two sides, which means I had to use brackets. Two brackets like this. I put one plate on the bottom, a 2x2 brick in the middle, and a 2x2 plate on top. That will allow these to meet up and give me that one plate gap. So now I can replace these plates with bricks. Now in the build for here, they used all plates, but as you know, a brick is the same as 3 plates, and it's just simpler. So now this should fit beautifully right down in there, and it's nicely supported around the edges, and the water does run flush right up to that wall, just like in the mock. And then, of course, we can put our 3x3 on top, build a fountain, whatever we want. I have Rick here, who's going to be my fountain. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Well, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope, Rick, that this answers your question and you can build yours just like in the mock. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you have any Lego problems of your own, and they have to be Lego problems, I don't do life problems, go ahead and email me, bricksculpt.chris@gmail.com. If I think it's relevant, if I can find a solution, and if I think others will benefit from it, I'll happily make a video on it. That's all I have for this time, and we will see you next time.